I thought I knew my husband, until I found his second phone. I've always prided myself on being a good judge of character. I'm a licensed therapist, for God's sake. I help people navigate relationships, confront emotional blind spots, and build trust with their partners. I believed I had that with my husband, David. We'd been together for 12 years. 2 kids. A mortgage. Matching holiday pajamas. Saturday morning pancakes and little rituals before bed. He'd kiss my forehead, I'd kiss his chin. It felt stable. Safe. Predictable in the best possible way. Until April 17th. It was an ordinary Thursday. The kids were asleep, David was in the shower, and I was doing laundry. His work bag was on the floor next to the hamper, and I reached in to grab his dress shirt. As I pulled it out, something small and solid fell to the ground with a clunk. A phone. My first thought was that it was an old, forgotten device. Maybe something he used years ago and never got around to throwing away. But the screen lit up when I picked it up. It wasn't old. It was fully charged. It had a passcode lock, and just as I was holding it in my hand, a message popped up, "Can't wait to see you again tonight, face blowing a kiss." Time stopped. I stood there, frozen, in the glow of the bathroom light spilling across the hallway, staring at the message like it would rearrange itself into something innocent if I looked long enough. But it didn't. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure David could hear it through the running water. I felt a hot flush rise to my face, equal parts shame, rage, confusion. This couldn't be real. David wasn't that kind of man. I knew him. I knew him. Didn't I? The next few minutes were a blur. I stuffed the phone back into the bag like it might burn my hand, closed it, and walked calmly, too calmly, into the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water with trembling hands, and tried to figure out what the hell to do. I could confront him right then and there. But what if there was a reasonable explanation? Maybe it was someone else's phone. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe. I stopped myself. I was doing exactly what I warned my clients not to do, rationalizing red flags. David came out of the shower a few minutes later, towel around his waist, whistling. "Hey, babe. Everything okay?" I nodded too quickly. "Yeah. Just tired." He smiled, leaned in to kiss me, and I felt bile rise in my throat. I didn't sleep that night. David fell asleep next to me like nothing was wrong, snoring softly, his arm draped over my waist. I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. Every detail of the past few months suddenly felt suspicious. The late meetings. The sudden interest in going to the gym. The way he started locking his phone when he used to leave it lying around. At 3:12 a.m., I made a decision. I'd play it smart. I wouldn't accuse him until I had real proof. I knew enough from my practice to understand that confronting someone too early just gave them time to lie better. So I waited. The next morning, I told him I was taking the kids to visit my sister for the weekend. He seemed surprised but didn't question it. That alone felt like a red flag. He usually hated being home alone. By Saturday night, I was parked down the street from our house, watching through binoculars like some cliché private investigator. I hated myself for doing it, but I needed to know. At 9:17 p.m., a black Audi pulled into our driveway. She stepped out. Tall. Brunette. In heels, wearing a tight red dress that looked like it belonged in a movie, not in a suburban neighborhood. She walked right up to the door, didn't even knock. David opened it like he'd been waiting all day. He kissed her. Not a polite kiss. A passionate, hands everywhere, I missed you kind of kiss. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, the plastic digging into my palms. I felt like I was going to vomit. I couldn't look away. I wanted to scream. Instead, I just watched as they disappeared inside, lights turning off one by one. It was real. It was happening. He was cheating on me. But that wasn't even the worst part. The next day, I went home before he got back. I had planned to pretend like I never left, just to see how he'd act. I put the kids to bed early, then went to his work bag. The phone was still there. And this time, I took it. I drove to a friend's house, someone who used to be in law enforcement, and he helped me break into it. What we found made my blood run cold. There weren't just messages from one woman. There were 3. Each one had her own contact name, her own thread of texts, photos, voice notes. There was one named Cat, Yoga, another saved as A with a heart emoji, and one named Wife Red Heart, and that one wasn't me. She thought she was his wife. He had a whole other life. I couldn't breathe. The messages weren't flings. These were full-blown relationships. One of the women talked about planning a trip with him to Greece like last summer. Another sent a voice message saying she missed falling asleep on his chest. One text, this one from Wife Red Heart, said, "The kids can't wait to see you this weekend. Don't forget Alex's recital is at 4. Kids. He had kids, with someone else. That line hit me harder than anything. Not just betrayal, but double lives. 3 women, one of them thinking she was his wife. A second family. Maybe even a third. My hands were shaking. I scrolled endlessly, months, years of messages. He celebrated holidays with these women. Told them he loved them. Sent them pictures of his office that weren't even our house. How had he hidden this? I started seeing all the cracks that had been there all along. All those times he missed family gatherings. The 2-day business trips that didn't make sense. That time he came home with glitter on his shirt and said it was from a coworker's birthday card. I had believed him. I had wanted to believe him. And now? Now I couldn't unsee the truth. I copied everything, screenshots, messages, voice notes. I sent it all to a secure drive under a fake email address. If this blew up legally, I wanted documentation. I had to protect myself. And the kids. I returned the phone before he noticed it was gone. That Sunday, David came home whistling again. Same towel, same casual smile, like he hadn't just spent the weekend screwing a woman who thought she was his only wife. I looked him dead in the eye and asked, "Did you miss me?" He smiled and said, "Of course." It took every ounce of strength not to slap him. I didn't sleep again that night. I stayed up making a list. Lawyer. STD test. Therapist, for me and the kids. Private investigator. Back up everything on shared devices. Financial records. Figure out who the hell this man really is. Because David wasn't just cheating. He was living a triple life. I didn't confront him right away. I needed a plan. A clean exit. Something that wouldn't turn into a messy custody war or worse, a gaslighting nightmare where he twisted everything back on me. So I played the role. Smiled. Kissed his cheek. Packed lunches. Let him think I was still the clueless wife, happy in our cookie-cutter suburban life. Meanwhile, I was meeting with an attorney during lunch breaks, pulling credit reports, tracing all financial transactions over the past 5 years. And what I found? He had multiple bank accounts. At least 2 I didn't know about, one in a completely different state. I gave the info to my lawyer, who connected the dots to a property deed. He owned a condo in Denver. That wasn't a business expense. That was home base for one of his secret families. My attorney called it long-term romantic fraud. I called it being married to a psychopath. But here's where things turned again. One night, about 2 weeks after I discovered the second phone, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. When I listened, my stomach dropped. A woman's voice. Calm. Measured. Terrified. "Hi. I think we need to talk. I believe we're both married to the same man." I nearly dropped the phone. I called her back immediately. Her name was Renee. She'd been with David for 7 years. They were married for 4. They had a 6-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter. They lived in Denver, yes, that Denver. She found out about me after noticing a name pop up on his car's Bluetooth history. My name. She Googled it, found my LinkedIn, saw a family photo I'd forgotten I posted. Her heart sank. We spoke for 3 hours. We cried. We compared stories. Dates. Timelines. We realized he had a rotation. Weekdays with me. Alternating weekends with her. Business trips that were really family trips for someone else. He told her he traveled often to consult on corporate restructuring. Whatever that means. But Renee had already contacted another woman, yes, a third. That one, Kat from yoga, wasn't married to him. But she thought she was the only one he was dating. She'd been with him for 3 years. Thought they were building toward marriage. She even picked out baby names with him. So now there were 3 of us. And possibly more. Renee and I made a decision, we would confront him together. We planned it carefully. We decided to confront him somewhere public, somewhere he couldn't scream or twist the narrative or turn violent. Renee suggested a quiet Italian restaurant halfway between our 2 cities, he'd been there with her before. I booked a table under a fake name. We told him we had a surprise date night planned. I said I had something special to celebrate. Renee did the same, using almost identical language. We coordinated it perfectly. He showed up at 7:04 p.m. I was already sitting at the table. When he saw me, he smiled like nothing was wrong. "Wow," he said, "you look amazing." I smiled back. "Thanks, David. So do you." He didn't suspect a thing. Not until Renee stepped out from behind the bar. His face went pale. You could see his brain short-circuiting in real time, eyes flicking between us, throat tightening, fists clenching, then unclenching. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. Renee sat down across from him. I stayed beside him. "Sit," I said. "You have a lot to explain." He sat. Not because he wanted to, but because he had to. He tried to start with, "This isn't what it looks like." Renee cut him off, "Don't. Just don't insult us." He paused. Realized there was no escape. Then something in his expression shifted. His whole demeanor changed. Like a mask had dropped. And for the first time in 12 years, I saw the real David. Calm. Cold. Calculating. "Okay," he said. "What do you want? Money? Divorce terms?" That told me everything. He wasn't shocked we knew. He was shocked we had the nerve to confront him. "You have children," I said. "With both of us." "And apparently a girlfriend," Renee added. He just shrugged. "Life's complicated." Complicated. That's what he called it. He said he never planned to hurt us, which is the favorite line of every narcissist. He tried to justify it all, said we were both strong women, that he loved us in different ways, that he was giving us both what we needed. Like he deserved a trophy for being emotionally manipulative equally. I pulled out my phone. Started playing voice messages from the other woman. Then photos. Then messages. He didn't flinch. Until Renee said, "We've spoken to a lawyer." His eyes finally narrowed. "You want to take me to court? Fine. I'll bury you both in paperwork." I smiled. Already started, and guess what? Bigamy is still a felony in Colorado. Now he froze. Because yes, Renee had proof. A marriage certificate. Legal. Binding. David was literally married to 2 women at the same time. He didn't speak for a full 30 seconds. You could see the panic rise in his eyes, but he kept trying to hold on to the illusion of control, like a man watching the walls of his castle crumble and still pretending he's king. "You wouldn't press charges," he said slowly. "That would hurt the kids." I leaned in. "You already hurt the kids. They just don't know it yet." Renee added, "And if you think we won't protect them from you, you're dumber than we thought." He stood up, grabbing his coat. This conversation is over. No, I said, standing too. This marriage is over. This charade, this lie you built. You're done, David. He left without paying the bill. The manager saw enough to know something wasn't right and quietly comped our meals. Renee and I sat there in silence for a long time, drinking cheap house wine, emotionally hollowed out. We had won, in a way. But it didn't feel like a win. It felt like we had both just been hit by a truck and were congratulating each other for surviving. The fallout came fast. My lawyer filed immediately. Renee's did the same. Kat, David's clueless girlfriend, ghosted him the second she saw the screenshots. She actually sent us both a thank you message for saving her years of heartbreak. David tried to fight us legally. Claimed we were conspiring. That we were out to ruin him. But with the amount of documented evidence, the judge saw through him quickly. He lost most of his parental rights. I got full custody of our kids. Renee got hers too. He now pays child support to 2 households, barely sees the children, and lives in a 1-bedroom apartment outside of town. Last I heard, he was trying to start over. New city. New name. Maybe even new women. I wish them luck. As for me, it's been almost a year. I'm in therapy. I still flinch when my phone rings unexpectedly. I still second-guess myself sometimes. But I'm healing. Slowly. Day by day. The other night, my son asked me why Daddy doesn't come to dinner anymore. I told him the truth, a softer version of it. Because Daddy made some choices that weren't okay. And now, we're just doing what's best for our family. He nodded. Then asked if we could still make pancakes on Saturday. I said yes. Because life moves on. Even after the deepest betrayals, you learn to breathe again. You learn to trust yourself again. You learn that sometimes the truth does set you free.